Greetings, salutations, respect, and love. I am Scott. You are in the Prog Corner, and today I'm feisty. I'm in an awful mood. I told myself I would never shoot a video when I'm in a rotten, terrible, awful, sour mood. That's me today. Work sucks. I'm so upset. Ah, man, I can't even begin to tell you. Careful. I'm grumpy, man. This is rule number one I established when I started the channel. I'm breaking it. Never shoot a video when you're in a rotten mood, and I'm in a terrible mood. I'm fired up. I am so angry today at the world, but I'm going to take it out on you fools if you don't mind. Today, we're doing ranking the Soft Machine albums, a band I've always loved. Well, not always. I didn't know about them in the beginning. I came to Soft Machine via an interview with Bill Bruford back in the 70s when he was talking about, the origins of prog rock. And he mentioned this band called Soft Machine. I'd heard of them. I didn't know nothing about them. So I went ahead and I bought Third. And that was my introduction to Soft Machine. I can't say it was love at first sight because it took a little while for me to get used to that particular album, but I have learned to love it and their entire not their entire catalog. There's one or two albums that aren't great in it, but such a cool band, formed in 1966, part of that whole Wildflowers thing, formed in Canterbury. The original band, man, the lineup was Robert Wyatt, Kevin Ayers, David Allen, who didn't even make it onto the first album, and Mike Ratledge. Yeah. I wish that four-piece would have put out an actual album. I guess there are some recordings. There's an early demo of it, but the first album did not have David Allen, so that's a bummer. I'm not ranking, if it doesn't say Soft Machine on the album cover, I'm not ranking it, so I'm ranking 12. And we're going to talk about some of those other related Soft Machine kind of spin-off things in a minute. But I'm going to rank the 12 Soft Machine albums proper, starting with number 12 from 1981. It's The Land of Cocaine. Oh, man, this is basically a Carl Jenkins thing. He had taken control of the band by this point. John Marshall is with him on here. But it's really just a Carl Jenkins solo album, if you ask me. Even a bevy of luminaries can't do anything to help this record out. Alan Holdsworth makes an appearance here. Jack Bruce is on here. Dick Morrissey from If is on here. Couple of good songs, though, over and above I like. Panorama Mania is really good. But this thing kind of just comes off like a new age filler album. I guess it was a contractual obligation album. Kind of feels that way at number 11. I'm going with the debut album from 1968. Like I said, David Allen was not in the band, but his influence is all over this. This is the only album with Kevin Ayers in the band. He would leave shortly thereafter. Some real great songs on here. Why Are We Sleeping? Hope for Happiness. Lullaby Letter. Great stuff. Early Soft Machine was a little more psychedelic. Little more song-oriented, the weird songwriting of Kevin Ayers. Certainly missed on later albums, but definite relic. Indebted a little bit to Pink Floyd as much as jazz rock, but it's a cool album. At number 10, let's go with Hidden Details from 2018, their second to last album. By this point, John Etheridge was the leader of the band. He's joined by Roy Babington, John Marshall, R.I.P. John Marshall, and Theo Travis, his first album with Soft Machine proper. He had been in the Soft Machine Legacy for a couple albums. So anyway, this is basically a continuation of that Soft Machine Legacy. They decided just to take that name Legacy off there, call it a Soft Machine album, and why not? You've even got a couple callbacks here. You've got Out Bloody Rageous from Third. You've got The Man Who Waved at Trains is on here from an older album. What album was that off of? Bundles, I think. I don't know. I like Life on Bridges. That's a good track. 14-Hour Dreams, cool. Nice to have Soft Machine back. But they would do an even better album later on. At number 9, I'm going with the fifth album. Is it called Five? Is it called Fifth? Either way, came out in 1972. And yeah, we had some lineup changes here. No Robert Wyatt to kick around here anymore, so the lineup here is Mike Ratledge, Elton Dean, Hugh Hopper. They hired Phil Howard, and he was fired about halfway through. John Marshall came in. I guess Elton Dean wasn't happy about any of this nonsense. Roy Babington also appears here. I'm not a big fan of 5. It's a good album, but a little boring to me. A little bit of that freeform stuff goes a long way at number 8. I'm going with their latest album, what could end up being the final Soft Machine album. We'll have to see. Other Doors from 2023. The lineup here is John Etheridge, the late, great John Marshall on drums, Theo Travis, and a new bass player, Freddie Baker. Roy Babington does play on 2 tracks here. I guess he's retired now. More callbacks on this record. You got Joy of a Toy from the debut album. You've got a Penny Hitch from 7. A decent record, though. I really do like it. I think it's a step up from the one that came out in 2018. It does kind of feel a little bit more like a Soft Machine album, and I appreciate that. Freddie Baker does a good job on bass. Good addition there at number 7. I'm going with the 4th album from 1971. Yeah, this was the last album with Robert Wyatt, and you could hear he wasn't really involved or interested. No vocals on this album, which would kind of be a thing going forward for Soft Machine. They basically turned into a free-form jazz kind of thing, and the pop sensibilities of yesteryear long gone here. So Mike Ratledge, Elton Dean, Hugh Hopper, of course, Robert Wyatt. Some great stuff on here, though, man. Teeth is a cool song. Kings and Queens I really like, but Virtually parts 1 through 4, very, very cool. You even get a little bit of Roy Babington shows up and Jimmy Hastings, so, good lineup, but the album just doesn't really hit me as hard as these next ones do. At number 6, I'm going with Softs from 1976, the second guitar album. Although Alan Holdsworth's not here anymore, we got the first appearance of John Etheridge. And the rest of the band is made up of Carl Jenkins, John Marshall, Roy Babington, and Alan Wakeman on sax. He had no relation. You get Mike Ratledge on 2 songs here, so this was like the last time you'd ever get Mike Ratledge to kick around in the band. And those 2 songs that he's on are my 2 favorite songs on the album, Bon Bon Caliban and Song of Arulus. Really cool, but I do like Out of Season. And what is with all the drum solos, man? John Marshall, it just seems like every album he's on, there's got to be a drum solo on here. This is more of a straight-up fusion album. The Canterbury influences are hard to really pick up, but I dig Softs. I think it's an underrated album. I really like it, and this is kind of the album that pointed to the future of what Soft Machine would be all about. At number 5, I'm going with 6 from 1973. Yeah, this was Mike Ratledge, Hugh Hopper. This was his last album with the band. John Marshall. There's no Elton Dean on this one. But this is where Carl Jenkins comes into the picture from Nucleus. And this is a weird album in that you've got the first album is a studio album, and then the second disc is a live disc. But I like the live disc even better. I think it's great. The soft weed factor is really cool, man. Very groovy album. Getting into some different kind of sounds and styles for Soft Machine. Doesn't sound like your dad's Soft Machine, but it's cool. You're in, fusion territory here, I guess, but I dig it. I like it. At number 4, I'm going with 7 from 1973. And this is basically Mike Ratledge and Nucleus, right? Because you've got Carl Jenkins, John Marshall, and Roy Babington, all of whom were in Nucleus. 7 was the last album recorded for Columbia before they got the big heave-ho. And so, you guys aren't selling enough records, so you're gone. I kind of don't hate the Carl Jenkins era in that it did away with some of the more free-form, unstructured songs of yesteryear, where you get into 7 and bundles and stuff. And the songs are a little bit more structured, a little less chaotic, a little less free-form. It's really dreamy, yet still very streamlined and very fusiony. I like 7, man. Underrated album, very cool. At number 3, the one that gets all the press of late, the one that everybody talks about his Bundles from 1975, and they talk about it for primarily one reason and one reason only, and rightfully so. This was the album with Alan Holdsworth on it. Unbelievable. Mike Ratledge, Carl Jenkins. John Marshall, Roy Babington. What a great album. Hazard Profile. Oh man, it's so good. Everything's great. The only letdown on this album to me is the final track, Floating World. I would have liked the album to maybe end on a bang instead of a whimper, but this is pure fusion. This was the first time I had ever heard Alan Holdsworth play, and he blew my mind. I mean, what's going on here? We traded in Elton Dean's crazy sax solos for a crazed young guitar player doing things I'd never heard before. Just amazing. Bundles was their first album for Harvest after they'd been given the heave-ho from Columbia. Fantastic record. I love it. At number 2, let's go with Volume 2 from 1969. Yeah, why not? At this point, the band was actually like a 3-piece. Still Mike Ratledge, Hugh Hopper, and Robert Wyatt. This was Hugh Hopper's first album with the band. Obviously, Kevin Ayers is gone, so they had to do something. And this album is cool, man. I really dig this one. Yeah, the psychedelic stuff is still there. But you're feeling a little jazzier at this point. And I love the way this album's structured with 2 song cycles, 2, suites, if you will. Side 1 is rhythmic melodies, which I always dug that track, or tracks, if you will. And then side 2 was Esther's Nose Job. Took me a little bit longer to get into side 2, but man, it's cool. Yeah, those song titles are sweet titles, tells you right off the bat that we're still kind of in psychedelic territory here. It's 1969. What do you expect? And at number 1, yeah, boys and girls, I'm going with Third. Of course, I'm going with Third from 1970. The classic line of Elton Dean's first appearance with the Soft Machine. Robert Wyatt still in the band. He gets to sing on one song. Hugh Hopper, Mike Ratledge. The perfect lineup. This is the perfect album. I love it because it's so imperfect, right? You've got the one live track, which really gives the whole album a bad rep as being, badly produced. Yeah, the facelift song, live song, maybe not sounding quite as good as the other 3 sides. You got that Moon and June song, which is the last vocal turn for the band. But the other 2 songs, man, Out Bloody Rageous and what is that? Slightly All the Time, whatever that thing's called. I don't know. It's 4 sides. Let me look. I feel like an idiot for not knowing the name. Slightly All the Time. I was right. Okay, all right. Yeah. 4 sides, 4 songs. I just dig them. I love this album. I think it's amazing. Now, I had said that there were some things we weren't going to talk about, and the one record that has been kind of shoehorned into the Soft Machine catalog is 1976's Rubber Riff. It's a Carl Jenkins album. It says so right on the cover. I mean, if we're not including the Soft Machine legacy albums in the discography, why would we include this one? I have no idea. It's Carl Jenkins, John Etheridge, John Marshall, Roy Babington, and Carol Barrett on keyboards. It's not a good album, man. And part of the reason I don't want to include it in this ranking is it would clearly be at the bottom, and I just don't like it. It's the only one that I can just say straight up. I even like Land of Cocaine a little bit. I don't like Rubber Riff. Now we had something else called Soft Heap, which they put out one album in 1979. The soft part we get, the heap part actually comes from the first letter of the 4 guys in the band: Hugh Hopper, Elton Dean, Alan Gowan, and Pitt Pyle, spells heap. All right, they put out one album, self-titled, and it's a good record. I like it. Next up, in 2003, there was something called Soft Works, which was Elton Dean, Hugh Hopper, John Marshall, and the great Alan Holdsworth. They put out one album called Abracadabra. It is a good album. I do like it. Yeah, and while they were touring that, I guess they were in Japan in 2007. Elton Dean and Hugh Hopper teamed up with 2 Japanese musicians and did something called Soft Mountain. They were joined by Yoshida Tatsuya from Ruins, oh yeah, and Happy Kamiyama on keyboards. Yeah, this thing is basically the Soft Mountain Suite cut in half, part 1 and part 2. Very cool. I like it. And finally, we talked about the Soft Machine legacy. The last 2 Soft Machine albums are basically Soft Machine legacy albums. You could clearly state that there were 5 Soft Machine legacy albums. 2 of them were called Soft Machine, and the first 3 were not. So those were the self-titled in 2006. The lineup there was Etheridge, Dean, Hopper, and Marshall. In 2007, Steam came out, but Elton Dean was gone, replaced by Theo Travis. And then 2013, the very, very solid Burden Proof came out, again with that same lineup of Etheridge, Hopper, Marshall, and Theo Travis. So that brings like 19 Soft Machine albums in all. I only ranked 12 of them because I was only ranking the ones that actually had the name Soft Machine on them. Anyway, punks, I plan on doing a review of the new Leormi album. I really, really like it. It's not getting any attention. Nobody's talking about it. And I don't get it, man. This is like the best thing Leormi's done in over 20 years. Maybe even longer since Aldo left the band. It's a fantastic record. And then Sunday, boys and girls, the Sunday prog stream is going to be awesome. Sunday at 1 o'clock. The Mount Rushmore of prog rock guitarists. And as always, remember Friday at noon. Every Friday at noon Eastern on Prog Radio, it's the Prog Corner playlist where we go through all the songs and all the stuff I've been talking about right here on the channel. But my fear of copyright strikes and the channel getting deleted prevents me from putting music on the channel. Anyway, boys and girls, I love you. Peace in the Middle East. Free Tibet. Free the Ukraine. And God save the king. Save King Chucky. Chucky needs your saving right now. Yes, he does. The boy's in remission. But that don't mean it might not come back. It might come back. So bring that boy to America. Let him swim to America. He's going to swim all the way to America. Then we're going to put some hands on that boy, lay some hands on him, do some spells and incantations. Our prayer warriors are standing by, and then we're going to dance with snakes. Snake dancing will cure that boy, and I will see you punks tomorrow. Peace.